You are listening to a production of the Toe Network, home of fighting analysis. This is the Uncommon Cast RX number 168. Discretion is the better part of brave. I'm Aleph, the thesis-seeking critic, Duat Red.
And I'm Sono, the upgraded critic, Duat Green. In lieu of our normal intro call, I'm just going to say this is actually kind of our second recording of this, because I made a mistake and lost all my audio. So that's my bad.
Which is always a pain to reconstruct. Oh boy.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of hit the big points of these two episodes, just to get this out quick, and then we're going to release our full notes document for you guys, so that you can read what we had planned to talk about, what we did talk about before I lost everything. Kind of instead of the other way around, because I know Amit puts out kind of the highlights of what we talk about, so we're kind of reversing it a little, and just...
And, you know, honestly, it's okay, because, as I recall in the initial recording, we didn't even have any particularly interesting tangents.
No, so we're just kind of getting the big stuff out of the way, just because I feel like these two episodes were so big for Hiro and especially Taiga that I didn't want to just skip over it completely.
Yeah, the big news is somehow I hate Taiga a whole lot less.
Yeah, somehow Taiga's like my favorite right now of the people who are dead.
Yeah, which is... Yeah, I mean, well, look, if we include the dead guy, like, let's face it, Kiria owns.
Yeah.
Kiria is...
Still
Kiria
the
is,
greatest.
in fact, the only common writer we need.
Yes.
But not the only common writer we want, and that makes a difference. But since we're already getting going, let's get started on our diagnosing of the episode.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wishes X8 was kind of two different shows. One that's about Emu and Kiria and Pallid, and one that's about Taiga and Hiro and Dan, because I'm really into these two separate stories, but they keep taking time away from each other, and that's time that Hiro and Taiga's stories, like, desperately need. Hiro in particular, especially now that Taiga has Nico to bounce off of and exposit off of, kind of the way that Asuna does much the same for Emu, and Hiro has nothing. And I don't know, maybe if we took director Kagami even slightly seriously, he could do this for Hiro, but instead we're having to play guess what's going on in Hiro's head because no one ever talks to him. And, you know, while what's slowly coming to light, and 19 did a lot for this, is making him more and more sympathetic and relatable to me, the fact that we're not really having any kind of open discussion the way that we are with Emu and Taiga and how we did with Kiria is a problem for Hiro, because we don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, because every now and again he'll say a thing and it's like, stop, look, I understand you are upset about Saki. That is correct, you should be. She is a human being. You dated her. The show still treats her like your sexy lamp, and you talk about her like you're mad that someone broke your lamp.
I don't need every writer to just wear their heart on their sleeve, because that's kind of boring, actually. Like, Hiro just isn't the sort to talk about his feelings, because he's an emotional train wreck, pressured by the weight of being a genius and the personal maintenance involved in that. And, like, I get that. He's got this really intense fear of failure, and that failure will, in his head at least, mean his career and therefore his life are over. He saw it happen to Taiga, and anytime he tries to actually, like, do anything big, it's something people constantly remind him of. That's the entire point of, like, episodes 14 and 15 with the gastrosurgeon who had pancreatic cancer. He's like, hey, you can do this surgery, but if it doesn't work, even though it's this almost impossible surgery, if you can't do it, like, your career is over, which is dumb.
Well, I think it is one of those things where you just have to take that they've raised the stakes to a really massive degree to reflect his emotional reality, and also the fact, you know, superheroes.
I mean, like, the other surgeon was also, like, considered a genius surgeon, and I think he just kind of understands that weight, but everyone is constantly telling Hiro that if he fails, it's over, either directly or indirectly. And it's made him unable to connect to people, which cost him Saki, which is something he holds an immense amount of guilt over, but because he has no ability to handle people or emotions, he shuffles all of that blame onto Taiga in order to cope, and clings to the one thing he knows he's capable of, which is being a doctor. And even in overcoming level 50, he was clinging to the idea of, I'm a good doctor. I can be a doctor. And I don't think I want to see him fail at being a doctor. And I don't want to see him fail at being a Kamen Rider, because I don't think those failures would be as meaningful as if we drew more attention to how he's constantly failing as a human being. Because he is awful at being a person, and he knows it, and he desperately scrambles to hide it under titles where he's something other than a person, and therefore is successful. Like, the genius surgeon is successful. Kamen Rider Brave is successful. Kagami Hero is a failure and a train wreck, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. But again, these are all assumptions that I'm making based on Hero's actions, which...
Assumptions which I must say, like, I think they're correct, or at least I interpret them the same way.
Yeah, like, I don't think these aren't baseless assumptions, and I think I'm kind of on the right track for what they're going for, but we don't explore it as much as we should, because we have no one asking him why he does anything he does. And in, like, the best Hero episodes, such as, 14, with that surgeon, Emu is kind of doing that. And then suddenly, like, I'm more interested in Hero, but we don't have him doing that. We don't have anyone kind of trying to explore Hero in episodes that aren't focused explicitly and entirely on him. Where, like, people have to talk to him because he's the one that is doing something. Whereas, like
little things.
Even in those episodes, which are explicitly about Hero, we have Nico talking to Taiga, and we're kind of getting a feel for who Taiga is as a person. But we don't have that going on with Hero in episodes that aren't about him, because he doesn't have anyone.
Yeah, and like you say, like, if they gave his dad a single bit of seriousness, maybe that could change, but they're too busy.
Like, the dude is right here. He has an explicit connection to Hero in the fact that he is his father, who has...
And his boss.
Yes, and has been around him...
the kid's a whole world.
He has been around him pretty much every day of his life, probably. There is not a single living person that knows him better. Have him be like, hey, are you doing this because you're feeling like this? Because I know how you get. And even if Hero refuses to answer, that's still a response. And we have someone saying this, so it's being brought up to the audience. Because even if he doesn't answer, he will still visibly react. And we need that.
It's the upside of the visual medium.
It's just, if we're making Hero such a focus in Emu's dilemma, which we are, because Hero is the one trying to protect it and, like, shoulder Emu's third of the burden in order to keep him from getting too stressed out, we need to be making more time for talking about Hero in the story.
No, I'm in agreement. And which is really surprising, because, boy, I hated that dude, like, 5 episodes ago. Okay, probably closer to 6. I hated him pretty much basically until the aftermath of Kiria dying, because, he was... I had that whole episode where I did the Batman voice and mocked his man pain, but I think a lot of what appealed to me in these episodes, besides some of the design choices, and one in particular I'm going to mention later, is that they were about... like, something you were catching on, but I'm just going to take it at a slightly different angle. Like, this is about scratching away a lot of the layers of hyper-masculine distance that Taiga and Hero have for the audience, so that we can see more of what they're about, and they can stop having their mysterious nonsense all the time. Like, Hero's got this one thing he clings to, but we see that he's still messed up over Saki, and either afraid or unable, or doesn't know how to reach out, and that's really telling. Taiga, he's afraid of some ghosts, and also has some ability to care for people, and even if he's consistently expressing that care in ways that are kind of hilariously awkward, we still see that he's a doctor, and he cares about people. He's a person on some level, and hey, we even get to see him doing some doctoring in that big abandoned hospital of his, which, like, hey, that's really nice. He's got the blackjack hair. He's acting kind of blackjacky.
Finally.
Kind of. I mean, let's not go overboard, but he's starting to kind of get there. And heck, even with all this, we even get to talk about some stuff that Emu's afraid of, which is his other self, and what might happen if he pushes his whole bugster fighting superhero thing too far. He might burn out his real self and let the bugster take over, or, depending on your theories, like, yeah, maybe the bugster will be unable to hold back the tremendous D-bag that is Emu. Look, we don't know. There's 2 of them in there. but just in a lot of ways, these episodes are about making everyone in the cast vulnerable. And even though there's a lot of junk scattered throughout, and especially in episode 20, and we're going to get to that, I really dig on them taking time and making excuses to bust out of the manly, so man-pain, stoic, the pain of the world is on my shoulders, and instead find excuses to bust out the man-bonding emotional piano for a second, while like Taiga and Hiro have their talk about gets to be a doctor and what that means. And like, look, if y'all think I don't really like it in a superhero show, especially like in this Kamen Rider show, where they have decided that they are also going to try and be a medical drama, and actually succeeded for like the first time in this, it's a Kamen Rider and also an other thing. Like, if y'all think I wasn't really into like, what is it to be a doctor, who gets to be a doctor, what does it mean when you take on that title, and how does it define you? And like you were saying, Sono, like implicitly contrasting that against the Kamen Rider title, which is another thing they put on themselves, and they have to decide what that means. But we've already decided, we know what being a Kamen Rider means. It means you get the cartridges and the belts and the catchphrases and the explosions, and you get to go punch out zombie Doctor Doom. So, fine, I'm down with that, because like there's certainly an argument to be made from the traditionalist side that like, hey, they've just there's a certain just generic superhero-iness that's in Kamen Rider, and that's a fight we can have, and I don't care to go there, but it's at the same time, like, we're still talking about what it is to be a person, and to take on a name, especially a name that has such meaning, and I dig on that, because it really just takes Doctor and Kamen Rider and puts them on a very similar playing field, which is a thing I can get behind.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, we can have that traditionalist fight, but I might just, like, punch you out. And not you, people who would come at me with... I'm not much for Showa elitism.
Look, we've all been there, and I only bring it up because, like, there's a part of me that definitely is like, okay, these are the things that Kamen Riders often said it is about, and then it's just, okay, well, how much does any given series bear that out? And honestly, I think over the course of it, it's mostly just a handful of really memorable moments, but I haven't watched all of Showa-era Kamen Rider, so I could be talking out my butt on that one. But, to just keep us puttering along, lest we actually start that fight, and I'm not really qualified to start it, or finish it, we did have something in episode 20 that you particularly had wanted to open up a discussion about, and one that I think is very important that at least I want to have. I don't know how important it is, but I definitely want to just...
I mean, look, I highlighted it for us to talk about. This is actually our only grievance with 20, so we are cutting out our grievances with 19, but I don't think any of them were quite so. Yeah, whereas this kind of felt like a big deal, because there's a lot of gross stuff in the core of episode 20, and it bothers me especially that they're having all of that grossness come specifically from women. Like, they're finding out why this kid is stressed, and Nico says that, because he's scared of thrill ride, he's never gonna get any girls. And then Poppy, while he's, like, in the CR, like, jumps up on the side of the scanner thing and is like, you've gotta be a man and confront your fears about this. And, like, the only two other women with lines in this episode only have lines that consist of laughing at him because he's afraid of heights. And, emasculating him because of what is honestly a pretty rational fear. Falling off of stuff will kill you.
Yeah, especially if you are doing so at an already accelerated velocity.
Yeah.
I happen to really enjoy thrill rides, but look, I get why people might be freaked out by them.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the problem with this is they're only putting this in women's mouths, and then putting that up against Emu, who is interrupted by Poppy's, like, troublesome jumping up on the bed. Emu's saying that, like, hey, you don't have to do these thrill rides if you don't want to, like, talk to this girl, and Poppy runs in like, no, you have to do it, otherwise you're not a man. And this very firmly ingrains this message of, this is what women think, and this is what women are supposed to think. And that's a really gross trap to be laying out for kids. For anyone, really, but especially for kids.
Yeah, because, like, look, if you come come to an adult with that who's actually, talked to, I don't know, 3 women for any length of time, they will probably be like, no, it's silly to say that all women want one thing. That's really, like, I can't even. But it's also not a thing that maybe a dude should be writing, because this was written by a dude. And look, I don't like to psychoanalyze writers, but there's definitely a flavor of working something out here, and it's not cool. Because, like, look, this is not a thing I can get behind, because it feeds the idea that women are the ones making dudes' lives worse, and like saying being a man is only one thing, and you can only do it one way, and it involves being brave and strong and domineering and conquering, etc., etc., etc. But here's a dude doing it, saying that, and then blaming women for saying the thing that he said. Like, it's not a patriarchal structure that is largely self-regulated by other dudes that creates all these ugly little boxes that it forces people into. I mean, especially if we're not going to go with, hey, it's cool not to enjoy thrill rides, and maybe you could tell this girl that you don't enjoy thrill rides. Like, we could still go with, hey, look, I know it's scary, but if you haven't done it, you should try it. This might be an interesting experience. You might learn something about yourself. Like, that's still basically saying you don't think what you think and you don't know what you know. But, like, at least that would have a level of, hey, some things it's cool to try before you decide you don't want to. But even then, it'd still be kind of like, dude, just let him not like a thrill ride.
It's not great, but the worst of the implications in it are kind of gone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, because it's still nonsense, but it's not like all women will laugh at you, and that's the thing you need to worry about most in this world, so be ready to destroy them.
Yeah,
because, like, look, I have seen the leap from one of those assertions to the other.
There are people making that leap.
It's not a far leap.
I mean, it is, but there are people making it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how.
Just go on YouTube for 20 minutes, find women all are the same. Like, I bet you will find 1,000 really frustrating dudes who want to say exactly that is true.
And I mean, look, if this dude told the girl, hey, I'm kind of scared of heights, can we maybe just do, like, the ground level stuff? Merry-go-round, bumper cars, games.
Or, hey, I'll sit by, you have fun, and, afterward we'll hang out and you tell me how much fun you had.
Yeah, I mean, just even any of that. And she might totally understand and be like, hey, I get that. We don't have to do the stuff that you don't like.
We could go do another thing. You don't have to do this to impress me.
Yeah, and, like, that would be great. But if he says that and she does make fun of him, dude, just toss her. Like, confronting fears is all well and good, but, like, work your way up to the stuff that's making you have, like, severe anxiety. Because if you need to take those steps in order to do this, and she has a problem with that, then she's not your problem, dude.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing, because, like, yeah, this isn't actually a thing to be all that humiliated and ashamed of, really. It's like, I don't want to. And it really is just telling all the kids that the problem is less whether or not you want to, it's what everyone else, and specifically women, will think. Or rather, I'm sorry, to put it in the phrasing that I think is appropriate to the argument being made, the problem is that females will have a problem with it.
And I mean, like,
because you have to talk about women in the most just dehumanizing terms.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't even give them a noun. You just describe them with an adjective.
And, like, here's another problem. She's not even in this episode. We have no reason to believe she'll think this is a problem at all.
This could all be in this kid's head. In fact, I would actually forgive a lot if it all just proved to be like, kid, you were worried over nothing. She thought all dudes like to go to amusement parks and have thrill rides as their first date. She actually is scared witless by them.
Or even if she enjoys them and is just like, oh, you don't like that? That's cool. We can either do the rides that you do like, or we can just go somewhere else. We can go to a movie, dude.
Yeah, do you want to do something else?
It ain't even a thing.
We're young people on a first date. I'm sure they'll find, like, they're in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the great world cities. I'm sure there's a thing happening somewhere. But yeah, just it's such an ugly bullcrap
Yeah, no,
argument.
it feels bad and it does not look good. It's not a good look for this show. It's not a good look for anything, honestly, not. But,
yeah,
just given the whole Saki problem that already exists.
Yeah. And sort of the paranoia that does pop up around all those little Omori bits that we have pointed out throughout the show's run.
Yeah, I mean, this at least isn't a hero episode.
Yeah.
So you can kind of separate that from it, but it's not a good look.
Yeah, Yuya, boo. Yuya, I'm a booya. See what I did? That's some awful wordplay. That was just terrible. Do we have any other thoughts on this one, or?
No, I think we can kind of let that go.
Yeah, because, like, not that I don't enjoy just really ragging on patriarchal nonsense, but there's some things we can talk about that are nice in the episodes too.
Yeah, so we've picked out two
or
or three things. We've only got the one from episode 19. I really dig on Hiro's very practical take on Mai's stress. You chose to do this, and there's a reason you wanted to do it. Don't focus on whether you're good enough or not. Just do the thing you wanted to do, and you'll get there eventually. If you're really dedicated to it, which she seems to be. And,
that doesn't look like an art form you take up if you're not, like, really into it.
Yeah, so it's, like, that's a thing that I've been trying to live by for the past couple years, and it's difficult, and it is stressful, but I feel like Hiro has made an effort long before this moment to kind of internalize Emu's rhetoric and boil it down to something that makes sense to him, and we're kind of finally seeing a reflection of that.
Yeah, and it is an amazing just little pop of character exploration, because it really says everything about how Hiro sees the world. And honestly, since I've also been trying to do that same thing as well, like it's just a nice thing to hear. The especially given that a lot of the kids are not too far away from one of those kind of really frightening and high stress decide the course of your life tests in the near term, given the age of the target demographics. Like, and then you consider the flailing people do when they're trying to over prepare for a test and to manage every last potential situation that could come up, and how that sometimes leads to people just wrecking themselves to a point where no matter if they studied or how much they worked, they just can't do the thing because they're either just way too tired, and they're tired all the time, which, by the way, is a terrible way to learn or demonstrate knowledge. But you can also just be tired before the test itself. You could be paralyzed by the enormity of the responsibility, which, again, not actually helpful for the thing you're doing. Like, and I think it's really nice just on the moral of this episode is level to just talk about, hey kids, I understand that these things are frightening, but you want to do it for a reason. Focus on that. Focus on where you're going, not where you are.
Yeah.
Which I'm about it. And then I think you had something you wanted to bring up in episode 20 as well?
Yes, because, as we mentioned, of the not dead people we've got, of the not dead writers we've got, that's an important distinction, because...
A very important distinction.
Because Nico exists.
Again, though, Kamen Rider Tech N.
Yeah.
I know it's not actually going to happen. I want it to happen.
But, what really did it for me was this conversation that goes on between Taiga and Hiro while Hiro is in Taiga's hospital recovering. And, they kind of talk about why they're doing what they're doing. And, Hiro's yelling at him like, just because you saved me doesn't mean I've forgiven you for, killing my girlfriend. But Taiga just kind of has this moment of, like, look man, that's cool, I don't care. Like, if you mess this up here, you're gonna end up like me. And you just see all of Hiro's fear of that completely solidify in his facial reaction. And again, this Hiro's actor is great, and he can act, and I wish they would let him.
Yeah, really nice to find that out, I have to say.
But there's something that's very deeply transformative of Taiga's I'm the only Kamen Rider we need when you place because I'm the one that has nothing to lose, like, in front of it. And it hit me really hard for no reason that I can, like, articulate.
Yeah, but it's a legit good line because it got me too. Like just something about the idea of him being the one kind of, again, to go back to the kind of purist argument, the one who has nothing else to be but a common writer. Like that's really intense and kind of tragic. Even as I'm saying, like, dude, Nico's right outside. Like your new little sister, she's gonna be really upset if you die, dude. I'm just saying. But still, implying that everyone else has something to live for and that implicitly he wants to protect that, like, that's kind of beautiful. Just the whole idea of, like, I'm already broke, so let me get broken more so you don't have to be. Like, look, that is emo as hell.
Yeah, it's
That is some teenage fan fiction level stuff, but I'm not gonna pretend I'm immune to it.
no,
That's
it's
really good.
it was like the timing and the delivery and the fact that he's saying it to Hiro. That's who the conversation is with. Hiro, who he already has this history with. This history that Hiro literally just threw in his face. And he just kind of shrugs it off like, yeah, man, I blew it. I know. So who cares if I blow it again?
Bad.
Like,
yep.
It can't get any worse for me. And, he's protecting Hiro, and Hiro acknowledges that in his denial of it to Nico. And it's this fantastic moment for the two of them that I've been waiting for, and I'm so glad about it. I also
same.
adore that Nico can read them both like a book. And how, even though, like, she is right outside, she just kind of laughs it off and keeps egging them on towards, like, talking about this, because she knows they need it. I did not plan on loving Nico as much as I do, but, I've said it before, I'll say it again, she's exactly what Taiga needed in order to be a complete character.
Yeah, it's true.
And, that's phrased weird because it makes her sound, like she exists only for Taiga, but she's very self-realized, which, makes me not worry about that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I loath as I am to do it's X character done right constructions, because, like, as you've pointed out, those are kind of pernicious and kind of nonsense. But this is taking the thing that they tried to do in Gaim with the Peach Lady.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yes, my drive is to find a powerful man and help him get as far as he'll go. Like, her thing at her kind of, like, she has her own role in the story outside of Taiga, but at this part of the story, her role is kind of, okay, she's going to bring him out of his shell and help define him, and also provide a lot of much needed exposition about what is Tensai Gamer M's whole deal. But at the same time, again, I do stress she is her own character. I'm just
it's
because
the thing is very much
context.
She was not looking for someone to she was not looking to find a strong person and then serve them. She was looking for someone to use as a weapon.
Exactly.
She was looking for an object. And then decided, oh, wait, I actually, this guy's actually kind of cool, and also, he needs a friend, so I'm just gonna help him out. I'm just...
Yeah, so it's not exactly that Peach writer, Malika, there we go.
I don't know
thing.
her name.
Yeah.
It's... But
it sort of reminded me of it, except if it wasn't so, horrendously sexist, just amazingly wow, that's the thing you wrote. A human being wrote that down, and 3 other people looked at it and said, yeah, seems legit, and then made a 4th person say it. You think about that for a second.
Oh.
Sorry.
Moving on to one last thing. Snipe's suit gets uglier and uglier with every upgrade, and Simulation is not an exception to this, but he also has this, stupid little naval officer hat, and I feel like this train wreck of a suit on all levels was entirely worth it just for this.
Yeah, there's a part of me that, for this suit, and only this suit, I would have fought you on his upgrades being awful, but then you made it so I didn't have to by bringing up the hat, because that hat is the greatest bit of design work. It's again, going back to Gaim, there was this one bit in Kamen Rider Gaim where he got the big DJ gun, wicka, 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 boom. It was that level of stupid that loops back around to being amazing. Because, like, look, that's just what I'm here for. Especially since once he's got the silly little hat, everything else becomes kind of charming. Like, the fact that it's got molded on jet fighters on the aircraft carrier parts.
Which I think they stole from Die Voyager in Bokendra.
Yeah, I would not.
I'd have to look. I'd have to look closer at them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they cannibalized them off of that robot, just because it has like 4 of them on it.
Well, especially since, like, now I think about it, one of the great bits is that those things don't actually attach to, like, his base suit, some of them. Like the bits on his arms, those aren't, like, gauntlets or anything. Like, no, those are just, like, weird, awkward guns that he just holds in his hands. He just holds these upside-down bits of ship with cannons on them.
Taiga's a mess.
And, like, it would be the worst thing, if not for the fact that he looks like the captain from Macross. Except with like the blonde forelock.
He looks like a combination of the captain from Macross and the Macross.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe.
That would make kind of sense. I do kind of like it though.
The hat is so dumb, and I love it so much. And I think what really makes it is that it's on Taiga.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the icing on this dumb, beautiful cake, because if Nico, like, walked up and held up a mirror to his face, and he saw that stupid hat, he would absolutely hate it. He would think this is the worst thing, like, someone else take this and use this. Hiro, just, you use the whole thing, I don't want it anymore.
Genius surgeon, you take it. But I'm still recovering. I don't care, you're gonna put it on right now. Get out there.
Like, that just, it brings me so much joy, how dumb it makes him look.
Before we move on, though, could I bring up one last point that I forgot to highlight?
Yes.
Yeah. I also just wanted to bring out that in 20, just to sort of spring off the bits I was talking about, the sort of the big thing happening in these episodes being showing everyone's vulnerabilities. Also, in a weird sort of way, get to see Dan's vulnerability, insofar as he's working so hard to cover up what just a petty chump he was when he's like, hey, guess what? You're a bugster! Aha! Because, again, we had our fight about, whether or not that was the appropriate level of just really awful, backstabby petty, and that's a fight we could go on for a million years.
The thing is, this kind of turned it around on me. It kind of turned it around for me, because, like, that still feels weird, but it also just feels like he's slipped up, and he's coming back, and he realizes it, and he's just like, oh no, I let them see that. Oh, but I can make this work for me. Yes, I am the best again. I'm not even again, I was always the best.
I stumbled, but it turns out that even when I stumble into victory. That'd actually be that would actually be a terrible title for his autobiography, but because you don't stumble into victory. He strides into it.
That kind of brought it back around, kind of just in how his Doctor Doom levels of just the gambit that he's playing.
Yeah, he is just so very. I don't even have an adjective. He's just very. He is the most. I love him.
Xanatos Gambit. That's the phrase I'm looking for.
Yes. Yeah. I knew that you knew that I knew, but did you know that I knew that you knew that I knew that you knew that you knew that I knew that you knew? I'm lost! Exactly. And that's the rest of your life.
Like, it's just that moment of him, like, being angry about it, and then being like, oh, but no, this still works for me. Haha, I'm so great. Like, that brought it back around for me. That's what I needed. And I feel like if that moment had been in the last episode, like, I wouldn't have been bothered by it.
No,
that's like, I needed this to make it okay for me.
I'm glad they got it in there. Now then, we also had our points of concern that we wanted to get to. So we got a question from our fearless leader, Amit, who's a big fan of sending us questions, but you can also send us questions to uncommoncastrx@gmail.com, or hit either of us up on the Twitter or our respective Tumblr inboxes. But the question from Amit. is something important being lost in the way the bugsters are just breaking out of the patients recently? Did it work well before, and is it working as well now?
I think it's actually a very interesting move, because now in the story we're discussing Emu being possessed by a bugster. Hiro and Taiga both take the risk of being possessed in order to use the beta gashat. And to parallel what's going on with our heroes, our victims are now also being directly possessed by their infected bugsters. And, you know, I wish that maybe there had been a slightly smoother transition to this, but a friend actually brought up the question that if maybe there had been movie-related budget problems, because for like a month or two there we were reusing old monsters for quite a few arcs.
Yeah, it's true.
It made sense narratively because at the time everyone was gaining a new level, and so were those bugsters. But I mean, it feels like that may have been the case, and if it was, I can understand because Ex-Aid can tend to be visually ambitious.
And also, Toei are cheap.
Also true.
Okay, let's be fair. Toei is budget conscious. There, that's probably much nicer.
But like
that's much less loaded.
I could see Ex-Aid being like, well, we want to do all these visually ambitious things, but we want to do them bigger because this is a movie. We're going to kind of have to eat into our episode budget a little bit.
But, you know, fair is fair. I'm okay with that.
But, you know, narratively, I do like that our monsters affect our patients in a way that seems to follow the personal journeys our heroes are taking kind of as people and as Kamen Riders.
Yeah, agreed. Like, the way, and some of the ways they're doing that, but just put a smile on my face in especially these two episodes. Like, Hiro coming to terms with how his ultimate goal is a kind of robotic perfection, while he's also trying to achieve his dreams. So he's trying to find a way to be a man and a machine, you know, a cyborg, you might say, like a Kamen Rider, while he's doing his doctoring thing. And so he's set up against a lady who is possessed by a robot. Or you have Taiga with him being afraid of frailty, and he's got a fear of what connection might mean for who he is and what he's doing with, say, his adopted little sister. And that's contrasted against this kid who is just deathly afraid of doing anything too risky or exciting. And that's especially in the context of having a new relationship with a woman, though in this case it is a very different relationship, lest anyone misunderstand me and think I'm thinking that Nico and Taiga should date, because we've said before, I'll say again, no. If you think you like that, this is one of the cases where I will say you are wrong and that you do not think what you think. But yeah, the change in, like, the mechanism of it is kind of jarring, but I'm happy for it if we're just going to lean into the fictitiousness and the metaphor of it all for a little. And since they've brought in this idea of Dan using the bugsters as part of his project, because, you know, he's going to get the ultimate simulation going for Kamen Rider Chronicle by just getting every flavor of game involved, it means they give themselves a little more space to use all those old suits, and also lets them avoid the poop monsters. Because, like, look, I'm not gonna lie, realizing that they were not going to be sticking around a whole lot made me happy at the start. Actually reaching the part where we don't see them anymore makes me happier.
Yeah.
Weird. Because especially since the first couple, at least, were like, okay, maybe this is, like, something related to the virus shape. The castle one certainly is. And then the rest of them was like, no, it's just a gun. A poop gun.
Like, this is
I don't remember any of the other ones.
This is
just
I don't remember one after the gun. I'm still just so, that's a gun. That's just a big gun.
Yep, y'all didn't think this out very far, did you? And they're just like, look, it's hard to find a virus that looks gunny.
Yeah,
you needed it to be a gun.
Then you shouldn't have done these to begin with.
Yep, that's not my problem. I'm just pointing out your inconsistency. I appreciate the difficulties you're working under, but that's not my problem. But yeah, that's sort of our answers to the points of concern. Did we have any other final thoughts before we sign off for the week?
No. Again, I apologize about the short episode. That is entirely my bad.
I'm pretty sure, just on a pure minutes of episode scale, I think we're just honestly balancing out some karma here.
A little bit, probably. But, you know, we'll also have a Q Ranger. coming up right after this. We're doing both, so we're not throwing off our schedule too bad, or at all, really.
We aren't getting paid, but we do our best to be professional.
We try.
Though, again, if you want to pay us,
that would be great.
I'm just saying.
But that's all for these episodes, I think. We'll see. We'll see if Taiga can hold on to this lead.
That'd be nice. That'd be real nice. But until we find out, for the Toe Network and the Uncommon Cast RX, I'm Aleph.
And I'm Sono.
And we are out of here.